Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. We're going to finish very quickly chapter 4, and then chapter 4 ends, at least it's coming to an end, with the Samaritan woman, which we talked about last week. And after that, encounter with her, and so on, and the following of the Samaritans, and make Jesus show him hospitality. He returns to Galilee, and Jesus himself indicates that a prophet is not without honor, except in his native place, because they all know him or think they know him, etc. So in foreign places, he tends to be more accepted, and he is referring to, once again, this is a kind of knife in the back jab at the Jews, his own people, who do not accept him, yet who showed him hospitality and who welcomed him and who followed him was the Samaritans, right? Following the story of the Samaritans, we see that there is the welcoming, hospitality, all of those kind of things, and even come to believe. It's his own people who rejects him. He came into his own, and his own received him not. Okay, so there. So he comes into Galilee, and they welcome him, since they had seen everything that had taken place in Jerusalem. And what they're talking about, of course, is the cleansing of the temple, right? That's what they're talking about, the cleansing of the temple, which is in chapter 2. And the reference of the temple, and we went through all of that, and so we're not going to circumvent the bush again. So we'll just go on. Now we come to the second sign at Cana. John is the only one to mention Cana in a gospel. The synoptics do not mention Cana. Jesus does twice. In fact, they're the scene of the first and second sign. The first sign is, of course, the water into wine, and we have the second sign. Then he returned to Cana in Galilee, where he had made the water wine. There you are. Now there was a royal official whose son was ill in Capernaum. Now, notice again, it is a royal official who is coming to Jesus and approaching him. Not a Jew. He's a royal official. He's a Roman. He's a pagan, whatever you want to call him. He's not Jewish. And so he comes to him. And once again, you're going to see this throughout. This is, again, was foretold in the prologue. So you've got to make these connections, right? So he came into his own received him not, right in the prologue. But to those who did, notice, the reception is not in their ethnicity. It's not in their Jewishness. It's not in following even the strict precepts of the law and going through all of the rituals and ceremonies and everything like that. It is in the person of Jesus Christ and faith in Christ. That is now the new covenant. This is the new era that is opening. Jesus has fulfilled the law and the prophets. Matthew, Sermon on the Mount, chapter 5. I've not come to abolish the law and the prophets. I've come to fulfill them. Okay, now that he has fulfilled them, it's not enough to fulfill them, because then the question is, what next? Now that you've fulfilled them, what happens? It's like all these people who are revolutionaries. They want to tear everything down. It's all wonderful and terrific and great, I guess, if you're into that sort of stuff. Obviously, if you don't have a business where they're doing all of this, that's helpful. But they're often very bad at proposing anything new. They're often difficult in rebuilding. What do you want? Where do we go? You see that sometime in religion. Religion can at times become kind of terminally negative. Don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, don't do that. That's all fine and good. But at some point, somebody's going to say, well, what do I do? How do I live this? What do you want? I mean, you've taken away this, you say that's bad, this is no good, etc. Well, what do I do? See? So we always have to be careful about that, because St. Paul warns about this, huh? He says, everything that is good and true and beautiful and pure and noble, we embrace. We embrace. See, this is one of the genius aspects of Catholicism. Catholicism is analogical. Protestantism tends to be dialectical. That is, dialectical means the clashing of opposites, light and darkness, good and evil, grace and law, damnation, redemption, so on and so forth like this. The Catholic imagination tends to be analogical. That is, we tend to see where things analogically fit together. In other words, something like, or is there something good in it that we can take, incorporate it into what we already have, and elevate it and raise it up? Clear example, some of you are tired of hearing it. Well, take a nap. Some of you are still napping, wake them up, because this will be a revelation to them. One of my favorite days of the year is Halloween. I love Halloween, which drives all the satanic crazy people nuts, because these are the people running around. You say Halloween. Oh, God, he's a devil worshiper. Oh, grow up. You sound possessed. So we have Halloween, and we look at all of that. And you really see the brilliance of the church. So you can run around condemning it. Just go ahead and condemn it. Do all of that. All you're doing is making it more attractive, especially the young people. What did the church do? Did it condemn it? No, it did not. What did it do? Halloween. Next day, All Saints' Day. The following day, All Souls' Day. That's the answer. Every time you go and condemn something, you have to ask yourself, am I making it worse? And what am I giving for people to go toward? This is bad, this is no good, this... Okay, great, I got you. Now what do I do? Well, I'm not sure. That's not a good answer. See? If that's all we're doing. The Communist Revolution, 1917. The Bolsheviks under Lenin kicked out Nicholas and Catherine and the whole bunch of them in there, the royals of the Russians, and they took over and gave us Leninist, godless communism. So what did the church do? The church elevated St. Joseph to the saint of the workers. Hence we have a church, I think. St. Joseph the Worker. And we've dedicated May to the month of Mary. And also Joseph has dedicated to workers. So what we've done is we have elevated that. You can run around and condemn it and do all this kind of stuff and so on and so forth like this. And yet one of the biggest proponents of workers is the Catholic Church. Catholic Church was really the first organized Christian religion, especially in the United States, that was so pro-labor. All of the labor leaders, when they were organizing back in the 19th century and in the early part of the 20th century, Samuel Gompers and all of these people coming together, where did they go to? They went to the church. And the encyclical by Leo the 13th, Rerum Novarum, the new order of things, it is more revolutionary than anything Marx could have ever written. And also, it has lasted longer. While few people read still the manifesto of the Communist Party and Das Kapital, especially Das Kapital, good luck with that. It usually gathers dust in a museum somewhere, but endured, because it talks about the rights of the workers, the importance of safe environments for workers to work, insurance, taking care of family, limited hours for working, child labor, women. It does all of that at the close of the 19th century. So when I hear all this stuff about how oppressive the church is and all of this kind of stuff, it is so ignorant that it's hard to work up any effort to even combat that, because they don't even know what Rerum Novarum is. They've never read it. They think it's a rock band or something like that, or the appearing on the Idol program, whatever that is. You know, I have no idea. It's an incredible thing, but it's true. Okay, so what you have to do is you have to look and see what is good and what is available there in order to bring something out of it, etc. So Jesus says, since they had seen all that he was done. Okay, then he returns to Cana in Galilee, where he had made the water wine. Now there was a royal official whose son was ill at Capernaum. All right. Now, when he heard that Jesus had arrived in Galilee from Judea, he went to him and asked him to come down and heal his son, who was near death. Jesus said to him, now you see, immediately Jesus' response does not follow the request. It does not follow the request. We would not expect the answer that Jesus gives to the request to come down and heal him. He's going to get to that, which tells you that this is an occasion for Jesus to make a deeper theological and spiritual point. In other words, you always want to look at when Jesus is made, a request is made of him, what is it that's occasioning it? What is obvious and what is the deeper meaning? You should always ask that question. The obvious thing is come down and heal him. Make a house call. Okay? Notice the royal official is acting royally, isn't he? Come on down and take care of this for me. He's used to doing that. He's used to telling people, do this for me, I want it done. And they do it. He's treating Jesus as if he's one of the, one of the people who's under his authority and so on and so forth like that, like Jesus is Dr. Welby or Kildare or one of these people that no longer exist, if they ever did. But anyway, Jesus says to him, unless you people see signs and wonders, you will not believe. Now notice that. Now, that answer should tell you something that I've already spoken to you about at length. However, human nature being what it is, I'm going to repeat it again, okay? Yes, see, I gotta know human nature. But anyway, remember I told you that there are two levels of faith. Faith in the signs and faith in Jesus' word. Those are the two. He wants him to come down and do it. He's at a low level of faith. It's better than nothing, but it's like an imperfect act of contrition. I'm sorry for my sins because I don't want to burn. Okay, well, that'll get you in, kind of, sort of. You spend a lot of time burning somewhere else. But you'll get in. Put some baby oil on you and slide it under the gate or whatever. Doesn't matter. Whatever. But the better contrition is, I'm sorry because I have offended God with my whole being. That's perfect contrition. I'm sorry I stole your pen. Why are you sorry? Because I got caught. Well, okay. I'm sorry because it didn't belong to me and it's your property and maybe I injured you and you could have used it and so on and so forth. That's different. So there's two levels of faith. Jesus says, oh yeah, you don't believe anything unless you see it. You got to have signs. You got to see all these things. He's getting at, my word isn't good enough for you. Jesus is the word that became flesh, and the epitome of faith, the model of faith, is to believe on the word of Jesus. The royal official said to him, "Sir, come down before my child dies." Notice again, he's still pushing the come down. Come on, get on with it, buddy. Let's go. You know, my HMO is running out. Come on. Jesus said to him, "You may go. Your son will live." Now notice that. That's very important. Jesus doesn't say, you can go. You can go is physical ability. You can walk away. Yeah, we know that. He says you may go. So you got to pay attention to words, because you're going to see in a moment they're very, very important. See, we race through these things like, no. He says you may go. Jesus is assuming the role of the superior in this encounter. He's giving him permission to leave. You may go because I'm inviting you into something deeper. I don't want the faith because you've seen a sign. I want the faith because you believe in my word. Now get going. You may go. You're dismissed. And if you have that, you'll see it when you get home. But I'm not coming down there for that. I don't need to do that. My word is sufficient. If you believe. The man believed. See? The man believed what Jesus said to him and left. While he was on the way back, his slaves met him and told him that the boy would live. He asked them when he began to recover. They told him the fever left him yesterday at about 1 p.m. The father realized that just at that time, Jesus said to him, "Your son will live." And he and his whole household came to believe. Notice, this is the same effect as the Samaritan woman at the well, isn't it? They come to believe. See? See what one person does? See, that's very important. Well, I'm just one person. What difference does it make if I do this? What difference does it make if I do that? Well, it makes all the difference in the world. Because you do it, and God takes care of multiplying it and harvesting it. It's not because of you. Oh, Lord. It's not because of me. Well, we know that. So spare me the snide remarks, please. Thank you. Now, this was the second sign Jesus did when he came to Galilee after Judea. So that's the second sign. Second sign is now shifting to the question of what is belief, and also the power of belief. The power of belief. That one person's believing can activate the belief of others. As one person's bad example can destroy the faith or the goodness of another. Okay. Now we go chapter 5. The cure on the Sabbath. This is an important one, and you have to ask yourself, what is the focus here? What is the major theme here of this particular chapter? It tends not to be what seems obvious, but is not. The most important tends to be overlooked, although it clearly predominates. And this chapter really begins the laying out of the charges of conviction. This is the initial. I told you before that the Gospel of John always must be looked at as a legal document. You have to look at it as if you're in a courtroom or you're in with a stenographer. And the public ministry of Jesus is the record that is being recorded for a bill of indictment against Jesus. And they're going to bring it to the grand jury, the Sanhedrin. And then he's going to get a hearing. He's going to get a hearing. And he's going to get that hearing before Pilate, and so on. Okay, all in the earthly realm, of course. But this is laying the groundwork of a legal document. So it is the evidence that's piling up here. And you're going to see there's a lot of legalese in this chapter, a lot of legalese in this chapter 5. And we have to get used to that because John's gospel is very much of a legal document. No, I was an aside. I remember when I was a lovely, innocent child of just several years ago, and they laughed at Jesus. Okay. And I was, I don't know why, I was falsely accused of something that one of the nuns told my mother, you know. They never did ever get it right, but anyway, you couldn't say that, though. And my mother said, when your father comes home, he'll handle this. So my father came home, 5 o'clock from work, and she greets him with this. And he says, okay, you know what's going to happen. And he starts to take off his belt. I'm going to go in the backyard, and I'm going to get this. So I had been watching, I think it was actually one of the early things of Perry Mason on television. It was. And I said to my father, don't I get a hearing? And he said, oh, yes, you are going to get a hearing. And he took me in the backyard. And after he got finished the hearing, he said to me, did you get your hearing? He said, no. I said, no. He said, well, of course you did. Everyone heard you. He said, now, would you like to appeal? I said, no. I never asked again for a hearing. So very strange. He had a very strange sense of justice. It was a very, very bad sense of justice. But anyway, you know. What is that?
He wanted you to know he was the boss.
Yes. Like you're the boss here. And I'm right on with you. Man. Right on. Throw off your chains. Come on. Oh, thank you. Would you like to sit with her? And you all would be a wonderful team. This poor lady is so embarrassed. I mean, oh, that's your wife. I'm sorry. Oh, years of that I can understand. But anyway, this is incredible. All of a sudden, it become a heckling group. This is not a comedy club, folks. You know, where you're heckling the, pardon me. Well, a thing is received with the intention of the receiver, St. Thomas Aquinas. Okay, so I'm receiving it as heckling and badgering me and making me feel bad about myself, and I have to go home and take Prozac. But that's okay, I don't mind. Here we go. This ought to be wonderfully being replayed. But anyway, he goes there to Jerusalem. He says, look right at the beginning. After this, there was a feast of Jews, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. Now that's a very, very interesting opening sentence, isn't it? Very interesting opening sentence. It says, there was a feast. Notice, please, what it does not say. It does not say the feast. It says a feast. A feast is indefinite. The feast is specific. There's only 3 times in which Jews are required to go to Jerusalem. Passover, Pentecost, and Tabernacles. But it doesn't designate it here. It's certainly not the Passover, because every time he talks about the Passover, he says the Passover. And there's only 3 recorded in John. Only 2 in the Synoptics. 3 in John. So we're left with Pentecost, Tabernacles. The Passover we can dismiss. We've already been up there for that. Pentecost is sometimes, well, in Jewish, it's referred to as the Shabbat, okay? S-H-A-V-U-O-T, S-H-A-V-U-O-T, the Shabbat. And it lasts about 2 days, and it is a feast, if you want, also referred to as the Feast of Weeks, the Feast of Harvest, or First Fruits. It is a celebration of the Torah given to Moses on Mount Sinai. So that's what the Pentecost is. That's the Jewish Pentecost. Okay? Moses receives the Ten Commandments. The Feast of Tabernacles is the Sukkot, S-U-K-K-O-T, S-U-K-K-O-T. The Sukkot is a dwelling tent of a temporary kind of arrangement. It's kind of a pup tent you just throw up, that kind of thing. And when you have that, because the Feast of Tabernacles commemorates the Israelites leaving Egypt and wandering in the desert for 40 years. Wandering in the desert for 40 years after the Exodus. And so the the Sukkot is the temporary dwelling that they would have because they're always moving. It's a reminder. So when they had the tabernacles, what they would do is people would often put a temporary kind of little housing outside, a little tent or structure that was not meant to last because you were moving. Where's the law and the covenant housed? Where is the covenant of the law? It's housed in the tent. Why? Because it's always moving. They're in there for 40 years. They're nomadic. They're not sedentary. They're not settled because they're moving. It's this 40-year journey that leads them into the promised land. It's not, jump on Uber or one of these other stupid things. They have to go through it because this 40 years is a period of them being schooled in what it means to be free and what it means really to be God's people. They have to go to school. The Exodus, the wandering experience in the desert is their 40-year education in what it means to be God's people. That's what it is. They never get the lesson fully and completely, as the rest of the Bible will show, but that's the beginning. The fundamentals are laid out in those 40 years. And Passover is again the Exodus experience. Most people place this at Pentecost. This a feast that he's talking about, a feast. Most. However, you have to be very careful with John, because John is not really that interested as much as the synoptics are in historicity or exactitude and so on. Again, I told you from the beginning, his gospel is theological. His gospel is spiritual. He is using incidences and things always with a different, higher purpose. If you want the history and the exactitude and you want to jank stuff, stay in the synoptics. Because John assumes that you know them. He assumes that you know that. So he's not going to go over that again. He's taking material that he has received himself because he's the only apostle to die a natural death. So he's the last of the witnesses there. So he has his own sources. But he also is drawing from the sources of Matthew, Mark, and Luke as well. But he's fashioning them according to his theological purpose. And we said from the beginning that Jesus came to reveal the Father. Remember, John 1:19, he came to reveal the Father. And in revealing the Father, he reveals himself as the Son of God. And that's what this trial is all about. Is Jesus telling the truth that he's the Son of God? Is it or isn't it? And we're going to see this really pick up pace here. Okay? So, anyway, so most people attribute this to the Pentecost, but there are others who give it to somewhere else, and so on and so forth like that. You know, Pentecost, if you want to really stretch it a bit, if you want to stretch it, it's okay. It's like Skechers, huh, with the sliding heel in the back. If you want to be able to do that, it is Moses receiving the commandment. All of you are familiar with the Transfiguration on Mount Tabor. The Transfiguration, Jesus goes up the mountain, and he's there between who? Moses and Elijah, yes, law and the prophet. And Jesus is in the middle, for he is the fulfillment of both the law and the prophets. As we approach what's going to take place here at the pool, Jesus is going to fulfill the law and the prophets, if you want. It is the new law. The law evidenced by Jesus' healing. But the healing is not the thing. Ignore the healing and ignore the waters. That's not the issue. That is not the issue. Oh, what do you mean? He healed the guy. It's scatter noise. It's background. It's diversion. What about the waters? Oh, the angels are stirring it and all this kind of stuff. Ignore it, per se. The Jewish authorities have a bigger fish to fry. It is all about this Jesus playing fast and loose with the Sabbath. Because that's one of the big charges they bring against him. It is the Sabbath. The Sabbath is front and center here. And it is the Sabbath that lays the groundwork for the indictment against Jesus. And this is the chapter where you see this. Clearly see it. You don't have to be a biblical scholar for this. You see it. Okay, let's look at this, please. So, there is the porticos there, the pool called the Hebrew Bethsaida, with 5 porticos. Some of the church fathers have seen the 5 porticos as the Torah, or the 5 books of the Bible. The church fathers, you really need to start reading the church fathers, especially their writing and their homilies, because their ability to take these symbolisms and give them, is it exegesis? No, it's probably eisegesis. That is, they're reading into these things from their knowledge of the scriptures and so on and so forth like this. It's magnificent. But anyway, in these lay a large number of ill, blind, lame, and crippled. One man was there for 38 years. Now, it doesn't mean that he stayed by the pool for 38 years. He would come and visit or whatever he was doing, or he was carried or whatever. But he had his infirmity for 38 years. Okay? When Jesus saw him lying there and knew that he had been ill for a long time, now notice, this is an indication of Jesus' divinity. There is no evidence that indicates Jesus knew this man before he saw him laying there. He never ran into him. He didn't see them in the 38 years. Didn't know anything about him. Didn't even know his name. Didn't know anything about him. Jesus saw him there and knew he had been ill for a long time. Jesus has this omniscience, this knowledge, because he's able to see into the condition of people beyond the physical, into the spiritual. And there he is laying there, 38 years or whatever. He's laying on a mat, and all this kind of stuff. Talk about a bedside manner, huh? Do you want to be well? Well, ask yourself, if you're laying in your old hospital, or if you're in your house or something like this, convalescing, whatever you do, huh? And the doctor walks in and says, well, you want to get well? You'd probably try to get a new HMO, get rid of a doctor, want somebody else, bring a lawsuit, certainly. Oh, God, you get somebody to take care of that one, huh? Trauma, huh? Psychological damage, all that kind of stuff, huh? Oh, yes. We don't expect that of Jesus. You want to get well? Well, it seems to me a perfectly legitimate question, frankly. Think about it. This guy's been here 38 years. You mean he can't fall in the pool? I mean, come on. Get there a little early. And as soon as the angels start, just roll in there. I mean, come on. You know? You're going to tell me there's not somebody who couldn't push him in there? Or something like that? Or one of these kind of grocery people who always say, oh, you can go ahead of me, you know, because they got one thing. However, they got one thing, and then they got four things that the clerk has to go get off the thing. And then they come back, and everybody in the line wants to kill you. Huh? With good reason. It would be justifiable homicide. But anyway. So, okay. So, Jesus asked him that. In other words, what's wrong with you? See, the great mistake that many people make is that there's the belief because somebody's infirm, they want to get better. That's patent nonsense. It's patent nonsense on its face. There are a lot of people who love to be sick. They love their infirmity. Think about it. You're the object of pity. People do for you. They feel sorry for you. They want to hear you. You get a chance to tell your story. In other words, this infirmity becomes you. That's you, and you're not going to give it up. Because if you give it up, it's like dying. Oh, my God. I was in California. I had to go bring this lady communion on a Sunday. Couldn't go to church. Okay. So I go there. Nice house, nice family, all this kind of stuff. And and she was always one of these very active people, always trying to be in everything and do everything and all of this kind of stuff. And it's always this kind of stuff like that. And she was incapacitated. She had something with her knee or something. I don't know what it was. She may have had surgery. Anyway, it doesn't matter. And she was in bed. So I bring her communion. And as I'm walking out, the husband, poor fella, he says, so I go over there, oh, God. Yes? He says, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do with her. I said, you don't know what to do with her? I said, let me explain it to you. You see, you've been married for a long time. So if you don't know what to do with her, ain't me. This is one time you got the wrong boy. I just, discretion is the better part of valor. So he says, I talked to the doctor a couple of times, and there's nothing wrong with her. She could get up and walk. I said, oh, really? He said, yes. He said, these pills he's given her, he said, they're sugar pills. I said, oh. So he says, and I'm working. I'm coming home doing this. I got to fix this. My sons are jumping here and jumping there. She's got everybody on edge, demanding this, demanding that. Oh. I said, let me have a word with her. So I went back in. I said, how you doing? She said, I can't move. I can't really get up and move. I can't do this. I said, really? I said, that's surprising. I said, usually by this time, most people are up and moving around. You know, the more you move, the better it is. She says, oh, they don't have my condition. I said, oh, okay. I said, what does the doctor say? She's kind of silent, see? I said, my understanding, I said, tell me if I'm wrong. But the doctor thinks you should be moving around and walking around. And he doesn't know what he's talking about. I said, your family doctor doesn't know what you're talking about. He did the surgery. He actually comes here to see you, and so on and so forth like this, and he doesn't know. Well, why does he keep coming back? Well, it's for my husband. I said, oh, he's coming to see your husband. No, it's when he sees me. I said, oh, okay, I understand. I said, now let me ask you a question. I said, what's the real reason you're staying in the bed and you're refusing to get up? I said, because everybody knows you can walk. Everybody knows you can move. I said, what game are you playing? I'm worse than Jesus. I said, doctor knows you can move. I said, your family is in a frazzle. They're lighting candles at both ends, and so on and so forth, and you're sitting here with all these demands and everything like that. I said, for all these years, you wanted to do everything. You're in everything, everybody's business, everything. That's what you wanted to do, and you did it. She said, yeah, and I'm damn tired of it. I said, oh. I said, well, you're damn tired of it. I said, I understand that. Now what? She said, it's their turn to wait on me and see what it feels like. I said, oh. I said, I see. I said, it's very clear now. I said, your illness is you are poisoning yourself with resentment. You've done all those things, but you kept the score. And when anybody asked you, could they help, you said no. No, I have it. I can do it. I don't need you. In other words, you wanted to be God. Self-sufficient, all of that, not needing anybody, none of that kind of stuff. You wanted to be God for everybody. Well, they let you. Because that's what you said. So they took you at your word. But all the while, nobody will help me. See, those kind of people become martyrs. Nobody will help me. Look, like Martha, they'll let me to do all this stuff for myself. Well, the last time somebody asked you if you could help, you almost killed them. No, I don't need any help. I got it. That's your method. Now, it's your chance to embrace your situation and make them see. I said, you really think that that's a good thing? You really do? Of course, naturally. Lord. Oh, God forbid. If that's one thing, please, spare me that. Huh? So I said, I didn't carry Kleenex with me. I said, I have a prayer book, but I don't have Kleenex. She goes like this. Box of Kleenex right there. I said, well, you can get the Kleenex. It's right there. Yes, I'm not feeding the beast, okay? You don't feed you don't give a hurricane a low pressure system, huh? So she gets it and she says, oh, I guess I've been horrible. I said, you have? Well, I mean, in a rare moment of insight, poor woman. I mean, who am I to squash that? No, I did. I said that. I said, you're right. And she says, well, what can I do? I said, well, you can start to get up. I said, you should see your doctor and tell him that you've been a naughty little girl and you have seen the error of your ways and you now want to walk. She says, I can't do that. I said, no, of course you can't. I said, you need to ask him, what can you do, and start to move, and so on and so forth, etc. I said, and you may even come to the point, maybe never, where you can tell your family, number one, how much you appreciate the care that they gave you. And if you can, maybe your husband, that you really love him and all the care that he did, and you're sorry for some of the things that you did in relation to this. Maybe that'll never come. That's okay. But I think the big thing is to get up and start moving, etc. She loved her infirmity. Do you want to get well? Hell no, I don't want to get well. No, I like this. It's our answer. Yes, until it was exposed. But now what? Now she's free. She had the antidote to the poison of resentment. And that is truth about yourself and truth before God and others, as you really are. Otherwise, again, resentment is taking poison and expecting somebody else to die. The only person that dies is you. It eats you away. And it was eating this woman away. It was not her knee, all that kind of stuff. That was over weeks ago. That's what it was. So when Jesus says, do you want to be well? Oh, no. Some people love their sins. They love their sins. They go to confession, and it's the same old sins over and over and over and over every week. You say, well, what are you doing to overcome this? Because this is repetitive behavior. I mean, it's just going on and on. Well, I'm trying. Okay, you're trying. How are you trying? Tell you whatever it is, so on and so forth. And you say, well, maybe you should try a little less that, and a little more listening, or something else. But nothing ever works. It's always the same thing over and over again. No matter what you say, it never works. Never works. See? And you have to begin to wonder at some point, do I love my demon more than I love my salvation? Because I'm comfortable with my demon. I've domesticated it. I'm happy with it. I'm familiar. I've tamed it. And that may sound sick or strange to you. It's not. In the sense of it's a real situation that happens. So don't assume that everybody comes to you and with this or that and they ask you about it. Oh, they want to be healed. Because those people often, when you tell them something in terms of some advice or something, they say, I know, before you almost get it out. Well, I know means you've just given up protection of the Fifth Amendment. You've indicted yourself. If you know, why are you doing it? You've given up ignorance. You've given up everything else. You're telling me you know. You know why you do this behavior. You know that this is the thing. And you're not doing it. I know. Yeah, okay, I know. They don't want to hear it. We always assume that people really want to get well. It's a bad assumption. It's an assumption that should always be taken with a great deal of prudence. Do they really want to get well? And that's what Jesus said. Because this guy's got a pretty good gig here. He's been laying here 38 years. Now, can you imagine all of the people that gave him alms, all the people that brought him stuff, all the people that helped him, carried him, did all of these things for him? Hey, it looks pretty good. Maybe the last thing I want to hear is pick up my mat and walk. Then it means all of a sudden I have to be self-sufficient to a degree. I have to be responsible. I have to make decisions. And above all, other folk don't pity me or feel sorry for me or do for me. See? So you see this undertone and dynamic at work here, you see. So Jesus says this, which seems to be harsh. It's not. And the sick man answered. Notice, he immediately begins with his excuses. You notice that? Immediately. It's the same dynamic as Adam and Eve. Same thing of Adam and Eve. Adam says, it's the woman you put here. I was fine if you got her. Whoever bright idea gave you to create her. I was fine with the animals. So I got her there. I didn't want that stupid fruit up there, whatever it was. I'm not a vegetarian. I don't want that stuff. I was happy with the birds and the animals. Just imagine it. So I was happy with all that. And then you get some bright idea. It's not good for me to be alone. Okay. So what does he do? Boom. Look, a nice, good, eat. You know, being a good, he's probably Italian. You know, and the wife says eat, you eat, okay? So he blames the woman blames the serpent, and everybody ends up blaming God because God did all of this. See? That's always the dynamic. Blame everybody. That's I have no one to put me in the pool. See? When the water is stirred up, while I'm on my way, someone else gets down there before me. Well, sweetie, if you weren't out in the parking lot with your mat, it could have something to do with it. You can't tell me you can't get a seat by the pool. I'm sorry. On the edge. Sorry, I don't buy it. Anyway, Jesus said to him, now this is really the first instance of Jesus in serious trouble with the Sabbath. Here is the first little sprinkling of the indictment against Jesus. Rise, take up your mat and walk. That's a biggie. That's a biggie. Not only is there no labor on the Sabbath, but in the commentaries written by the Jewish rabbis over the centuries, it was explicitly forbidden for you to pick up a mat or any bedding on the Sabbath. Now, and Jesus says, rise, take up your mat and walk. Wow. Every Pharisee, everybody who's looking for, here it is. There you go. There's the first evidence right there. He has no respect for the Sabbath. He has no respect for the law. He's greater than Moses. He doesn't care about him. Immediately the man became well, took up his mat, and walked. Now that's dramatic. That's dramatic. If you went into a ward of paraplegics or something like that, and the doctor came in and said, get up and walk, and the person got up and walked, my God, that would be the talk of the hospital. Television would be there. There'd be satellites all over the place, everything. They don't care about that. They don't care about that. What they're focused on is Jesus told this guy, pick up your mat and walk. The same thing will take place with the healing of the man born blind. When the Pharisees tried to get him explicitly to lie about Jesus, right now, they're just writing it down. Pool at Bethsaida, Jesus cured on the Sabbath and told the guy to take up his mat and walk. That's evidence number one. Notice the next sentence, please. What does it say? There you are. There you are, see? John is not just putting there to tell you what it is on the calendar, for God's sake. Again, you have to ask yourself always the deeper thing going on with John. It's the Sabbath. And what he has just done is connected to the Sabbath. It's breaking of the Sabbath. Right there. Again, it's like when he said it is night. Not interested in the chronological time. He's interested in the metaphysical, the spiritual. It was Sabbath. That tells you all you need to know. So the Jews said to the man who was cured, it is the Sabbath, and it is not lawful for you to carry your mat. Right there. Just what I said to you. He answered them, the man who made me well told me, take up your mat and walk. They asked him, who is the man who told you? Take it up and walk. The man who was healed did not know who it was, for Jesus had slipped away since there was a crowd. After this, Jesus found him in the temple area and said to him, look, you are well. Do not sin anymore, so that nothing worse may happen to you. Now, I want to be clear. Jesus is not making any connection, although there is some in other places, here in the Gospel of John, between infirmity and sin. He's not making that direct, that those who sin must have done something wrong. That's the old Deuteronomic principle. Huh? If you're doing well, God loves you. If you're doing bad, you must have sinned, or somebody in your generation sinned. It's genetic, and you're going to suffer for it. No. But what he's saying is that there are instances in which sin can have a physical manifestation. Take the sin of gluttony, okay, for the sake of discussion. Well, if you eat too much, all kind of cholesterol, and you're eating enough eggs to lay one, and all of this kind of stuff, and your exercise is from the sofa to the icebox to the bathroom and back to the sofa, and you're, physically challenged, let's put it that way, you probably, not only gluttonous, you probably are running a good risk of croaking pretty soon. Your lifestyle, I don't care if you're a believer or not, there are certain things that if you do it, it's not going to turn out well. That's the way it works, If you exercise too much, and you're running all, every time anybody meets you, you're never without sweat, huh? You're sweating all over the place. It's an amazing thing, huh? Anyway, the man went and told the Jews that Jesus was the one who had made him well. Therefore, the Jews began to persecute Jesus because he did this on the Sabbath. You can't make it any clearer than that. You can't make it any clearer than that. This is the beginning, right here. That little simple thing, pick up your mat. That's how sin begins. That's how great downfalls began. Little stones derail big trains. And it's the little things in our life that can derail big things. Marriages, friendships, businesses, trust, all kind of things. It's not the big spectacular things often, just the little things. Just the little things. And but Jesus answered, "My Father is at work until now, so I am at work." For this reason, Jews tried all the more to kill him, because he not only broke the Sabbath, but he also called God his Father, making himself equal to God. See, back into the synoptics. Jesus is walking through the cornfields with his disciples, and they haven't eaten. Do you remember that? Well, you should. And that's what they're doing. And they come across the corn, and what happens? They take down the stalks, and they begin to eat, and they eat. And the Pharisees say, "You ate that stuff. You took that. You did that work," and so on and so forth. And Jesus says, "Haven't you read in the scriptures that you're so bragging about all the time and standing on? Why all of a sudden are you so ignorant now?" David and his men, after battle, they were hungry and everything else, and what did they do? They went into the Holy of Holies and ate the bread only reserved for the Levites or the priest. Did they sin? Did David sin? Answer the question. Did David sin? They don't want to say that. And Jesus is saying, Lord of the Sabbath. The Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. That is, the Sabbath is made to enhance closeness to God and the development of human well-being. It is not the other way around. You are not made just to blindly obey something over and over and over and over again. And the Son of Man is the Lord of the Sabbath. And the Father rested on the seventh day. He worked, he rested, and took delight in what he did. And then he went back to work. Did he sin? No, the Father is above it. Why? Because he made the Sabbath. Jesus saying, I'm above the Sabbath because the Father and I are one. I'm the Lord of the Sabbath. So now he's got some problems. Violating the Sabbath. Secondly, he's now, in their eyes, claiming equality with God. Breaking of the Sabbath and blasphemy. And blasphemy. That's pretty bad. But there's the two principal things right there. Now they talk about the work of the Son of Man. What time is it, please? All right, we'll stop because that's what you want. Okay, so I'm going to finish chapter 5 next week. And then we're going to go into one of the most important chapters in the Gospel of John, certainly in the book of Signs, because there still seems to be some confusion. But anyway, I think the confusion is purposeful, not genuine. But anyway, leaving that aside. Chapter 6, very, very important, because it has to be understood on multiple levels. It has to be understood on multiple levels. And you need to pay attention to the sequential order of this particular chapter, the sequential order of which things take place. They're not just thrown down like, you just haphazard throw seeds somewhere or something like that, or you throw beads at a parade. There's purpose, there's direction to the events they're leading up and pointing toward. Again, remember the key points that I asked you to do when you encounter the Gospel of John. And you'll get much more, especially out of this particular chapter, which is one of the great chapters in all of sacred Scripture. And so we do have to spend some time there. But I'll finish up this, and if you notice, the rest of this chapter 5, please again look at it through the lens of a legal encounter. A legal encounter. There's the back and forth of testimony and witnesses, appeals to the law, and all of this kind of stuff that's taking place out of this little episode with the healing of this guy who for 38 years is laying there, and Jesus says, get your mat and go ahead. And all of this begins to unfold. Never, never underestimate the importance of the seemingly insignificant. People do it all the time. The seemingly insignificant, like the mustard seed or the widow's mite. There's big things in store. Big things in store. And our life too. Our life too. What seems to be such a passing little, nothing thing. It has significant consequences very often, which requires our reflection. But anyway, thank you for your attention. Let's end, please. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen. Almighty and gracious God, we offer you glory, praise, and thanksgiving for your gift of this time together. And we pray in thanksgiving to you, O Holy Spirit, Lord and giver of life, sanctify it. Please enlighten our minds and strengthen our will.